What's up everyone, Alan here. Today we're gonna talk about how I lost $25,000 on a flip in Los Angeles. We're gonna go through the details. You're gonna learn from my mistakes, my failure. And I love learning from people's failures. You know, there's something incredibly valuable about learning from people who've gone before you, where they've messed up, so that you don't repeat the same mistakes yourself. It's more powerful, I think, than just learning from someone's successes. So let's dig into it. We're gonna go into the details. Let's go. So I was doing flips here in Los Angeles, and this was many years ago. It was actually as we were in the recession, kind of coming out of the recession, the last recession. And during that time, we decided to start raising capital and buy properties that were foreclosures. We were actually buying them right at the courthouse steps. We had a team set up. It was an incredible operation because there was actually multiple courthouses that were selling properties at the courthouse steps. We had the team on the ground at the courthouses with iPads. We were communicating with them, and it was this incredibly fast, high technology operation because when the properties came out, the list came out for sale, they came out that morning on what was selling. Of course, there was a list maybe a few days before, but none of it was for sure until the morning of the sale. So literally the morning of the sale, we were doing everything we can to gather as much information on the properties in a very short amount of time. We would often have people on phones driving by the properties. We would do Street View on Google. We would do MLS checking comps. We would check any history on the property, prior photos on the property, if it was on the market as a short sale. We would do all the research we could, but we had to make a decision relatively quick. And the way we did it is we left a large cushion in each transaction that we purchased. And by the way, these purchases are happening cash. Not cash like suitcases of green bills, but the people at the auctions did have cashier's checks that we would use, and the property transactions would happen using essentially cash. We would leave a large cushion of potential profit, you know, because of the risks that we were taking on by buying these properties at short notice. And 98% of the ones we did, we made money on. But I wanted to walk you through one, and I think, honestly, if I think about it, I think this is the only one that we lost some money on. The profits that we made on all the other ones we did by far made up for this one, and I'm gonna tell you why. So this property was one that we bought, first of all, in an area that we weren't familiar with. We kind of knew like the general area. It was a city within the Los Angeles County area called Carson. And what we did not know about Carson is that they do inspections at every property that sells to make sure that everything is up to snuff, is up to code, is permitted, etc. And we weren't aware of that. I am aware that there are cities around the country that do that inspect every property as it sells on the market to do like a zoning check and other checks. In a lot of areas, it's actually been deemed unconstitutional to go through people's homes like that because there was so much discrepancy in what one inspector would say was wrong with property and what another government inspector would say was wrong with the property. So in a lot of cities like Pasadena, for example, Santa Barbara, for example, cities that I've lived in where they did that at one point and now they no longer do it. In this city, in Carson, they were doing that walkthrough inspection and we weren't aware that they were gonna do that. And so what happened is the property that we purchased had this entire addition added onto the back of it that was not permitted. And because of that, the city decided on their inspection report that that addition had to be torn down, demolished, and then the property needed to be brought back to code and compliance with the city approving of it. This was going to be a massive expense of time, dealing with the city with multiple inspections and permits to put it back that we were not budgeting for. And that is the big mistake that we made. So what we decided to do there is actually sell the property because we still bought it for a really great price, and to just sell it to another investor that could come in and take on that hassle. We disclosed it to them. Hey, this is what you're gonna have to do. And so with that, we were able to move on and keep that money moving, because it's also important when you're fixing and selling property to keep the money moving quickly. And so we wanted to get our money out of that transaction instead of being stuck in it for who knows how long, going back and forth with the city and permits and demo. And we sold it at a loss of $25,000. But because we were able to quickly move it into another one that was profitable, we easily made up for that. But that's one of the things you want to watch out for. You want to watch out for areas where you're not as familiar, and you want to get the scoop from the city. So you want to talk to planning, if the city has a planning department, and sometimes it has a different, what's called building and safety department. You want to talk to those people to find out, first of all, what files they have on the property, if any, and just get all the information you can get, because a lot of these properties will already have violations on them. You want to know about a violation if there's a violation on the property. You want to know if there's work that's been done where a permit's been opened, but then it's never been finalized. You want to know all these things ahead of time, because it can add a lot of time, a lot of expense to you fixing that property and selling it for profit. You want to pay really close attention to the location as well, not just in terms of the city and where it is and planning and building, but also the location possibly of things you can't control. For example, we bought a property in urban Chicago from a bank, and this property was on a good street. It was a great rental location. However, there was trouble not far from this property on some of the blocks nearby. And we fixed up this property. It was a 2-unit. I tell that story in another episode, and you can check it out. That episode's called How a Gang Moved Into My Property. So you can see where I'm going with this. But basically, we fixed this 2-unit up and rented it out for an incredible amount, incredible return. It's a high demand rental area. They rented like this. But eventually what happened is trouble moved onto the block. The next door neighbor, a gang moved into that property, or actually a gang member, and then his friends, the gang, moved in as well, and that caused major trouble for our property. We still got out of that and broke even. And again, that's a situation where you really want to know your locations well, where you're doing this. Next, you want to think about inspections. Now, I'm not just saying, yeah, do an inspection. That's obvious, right? Everyone knows you do an inspection, but you really want to make sure the inspection's done well. Who's inspecting the property? How much of it has been inspected? I would go to the point as well where there's hidden things. Like, for example, one thing that's come back that we've been watching out for is sewer lines, what they call lateral sewer lines. The sewer lines that go laterally under the property or out to the street. You want to get those cameraed. You want to have a plumber send a camera through. Could cost a couple $100, but to send that camera through that sewer line can save you a lot of trouble in the future, especially if you notice big trees out front or where there's roots that could get in. Or we've run cameras through, and actually part of the sewer line was collapsed. It was like old clay pipe that had literally collapsed. And guess what's going to happen? You're going to have to dig that whole thing up and replace that part of the sewer line, and it is expensive. So that's one thing you want to watch out for. If it does come up in the inspection, it may give you a chance to renegotiate the price and get an even better deal. So you want to watch out for that. You want to make sure your inspections are done well and thorough. So these are some of the things to watch out for. I wanted you to learn from some of the mistakes we made, the things we now watch out for, and protect yourself so that when you buy a fix and flip, you can make it as profitable as possible. And hopefully this information is providing value to you, saves you the headache, and makes you more money in the future on your transactions. Please give us a like if it's been valuable, if the information's been helpful. Subscribe to our channel. You'll get updates on the next one that we release. And below, I'm going to link you to the real estate investment course where I'll go through a whole lot more detail of things to watch out for, mistakes we've made, successes we've made, things I call hacks, where there's things that we've done that nobody said is possible, things that they said, well, you can't do that, and we did it in real estate, and the ways that you can do that to maximize your profit, avoid taxes where possible legally, and get value into your real estate education. Thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next episode.